Hi, this is Hannah Quill.
Hi, this is Katie Sayed. Welcome to
Health
Health Beats, Season 1, Episode 3. And we are so excited today because we have a very special guest speaker. Her name is Julie Stewart, and she is an Ayurvedic practitioner. Hi, Julie. Welcome.
Hi, girls. How are you guys?
We're well. Thanks for asking.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very good today. It's a beautiful day, and yeah, everything feels good. So today's a nice day.
It is. It's a beautiful day in
Yeah.
Chicago, right?
It is. It is. Yes.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it, Julie. Tell us
Okay.
a little bit about Ayurveda and your journey into Ayurveda first and foremost.
All right. Well, so I've been a yoga teacher for over 20 years, and probably around my fourth or fifth year of my yoga training, I kept feeling like when I'd stand up to next one in a pose, I could smell different smells. And I started to talk to them, and I realized what they were eating at night. And I really felt that I was missing a link in my yoga teachings that has to do with how we eat, what we eat, those kinds of things. So just it happened where I had a friend who was going up to a place in Milwaukee, Kanyakumari. It's gone away. It's closed down now. But she invited me to come up and be her puppet, and she just learned how to do all the Ayurvedic treatments. And that's when I realized that that's what I was missing, that this was the key to me for having a complete and total well-rounded practice. Mm-hmm. So I just went up there and I drove up there every weekend for about 2.5 years, did some wonderful training with some wonderful ladies up there. I learned all my hands-on treatment, how to do all my treatments through two ladies called Diva Ayurveda in Milwaukee. They're still around. And then I came and got my Ayurvedic practitioner. There's an educator, practitioner, and then you go on to be a doctor. So I got my Ayurvedic practitioner with Bhavana Institute, which was in LaGrange, Illinois, which again, of course, is now gone away as well. So, but my training, I got trained from some really wonderful people. I feel really comfortable in my knowledge, and it just kind of came, just brought everything together for me 24/7. It was just like all of a sudden I was watching myself and my family and my children and my husband and trying to bring in all the different attributes that Ayurveda can bring, and how it really did help to change. I saw it change my children, it changed my husband, it really did. So for me, that was huge when I could see things changing right in front of my eyes, just because of the food, the quality of the food that I was serving, when I chose to serve it, what we were eating during the different weather shifts and everything. So, and I've just seen a big change in myself as well. So yeah, it's just something I've latched onto. I can't get enough of it. I'm always training. I became an Ayurvedic doula because I just believe that the principles of Ayurveda, as far as a new mother having a baby, is just huge. It's huge. So I've kind of done that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Could you describe more about Ayurveda? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Ayurveda, they say that yoga is the hand and Ayurveda is the glove. So they work together. Ayurveda, it's called the science of life, meaning that we look outside, we take the seasons into consideration. We take the physical body shape that you're born with. That's never going to change unless you choose to alter it, surgically. And then we also look at your mental capabilities, your mental awareness, where it is at this moment. We take that into consideration. And then we just kind of figure out what foods are appropriate for you. If you have issues with heartburn or constipation, Ayurveda believes that all issues, every single one of them, starts in the digestive system. So we go to that digestive fire immediately. We just zone right in there to see what type of fire you have and what we can do to either ignite it or calm it down or kind of recharge it. So
I see. Interesting. And I think it's interesting to note too, because when we look at Western medicine, there's been this new surge of all talking about gut health and the digestive system and how the gut is the second brain. And it just shows Ayurveda is this ancient medicine, right? For those who aren't familiar,
right.
It dates back about 5,000 years ago.
5,000 years. Exactly, Katie. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and back in the day when Ayurveda was first needed, so things were kind of getting a little crazy. People were starting to lose their sense of, their boundaries with each other. Illnesses and diseases started to arise. And so the rishis that were up in the mountains who were doing all the meditation received all this information, from the higher gods into their intellect. And then it was handed down through a time when it was called the Vedic time of the world, I guess. And in the Vedic time, nothing was ever written down. So you sat at the feet of your doctor or your mentor or whoever you're looking up to, and they would share all their information verbally. And that even became down to even the types of teas and how to mix all the herbs together. That was all done by mouth. And then over time, all these beautiful scriptures were written down, and the Ayurvedic book of scriptures is quite large. So there's a lot of information, and you'll find Ayurveda, if you really were to diagnose like the Western medicine, Chinese medicine, you'll see Ayurveda in all of that. Western medicine just won't let you acknowledge that it's Ayurveda, but the foundation is all there.
It's deeply rooted in all
Deeply.
sort of medicine, right?
Yes,
Interesting.
exactly. And we look at Ayurveda looks at as medicine. The food is our medicine. Our spices are our
Hippocrates.
medicine.
Food is thy medicine, and thy
Medicine
medicine is thy food, right?
Absolutely. So that's where we work from really a lot is the food.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting us know a little bit deeper about that. So for your journey to Ayurveda, I know you said you started really diving into it about 10 to 12 years ago. Did you have any experience with Ayurveda before that?
No, Katie, I really didn't. I didn't have, it just wasn't really heard of or thought of a lot.
Mhm.
There was a time when England came over and took over India. And India at the time kind of quashed all the Ayurveda. England wanted them to be just the Western medicine model. So Ayurveda was kind of put down. And so I think when I first started learning about Ayurveda, it had been around, but it hadn't really hit the United States like it's hitting now. There wasn't a lot of information to go to find it. And I think just over the last 5 or 6 years, it's really starting to come back and get a little bit more acknowledged as to all the knowledge it has. So it's really coming.
I find it interesting that you said that Ayurveda is even in Western medicine. I guess what's an example of that?
Good question.
Like if I have heartburn and I'm used to taking Tums or Pantoprazole or something.
No,
like
see,
that.
no.
That's not Ayurveda to me. So
no, we would give you a tea, a cooling tea that we always say your disease or your illness or whatever you're dealing with didn't happen overnight. So you need to give us a little bit of time to see if we can naturally get that through. But back to the question about how it's enmeshed in Western medicine, I can't really answer. I just know that I've always been told that there is Ayurvedic principles in Western medicine. So I can't be super specific about
Well,
that.
I know for sure as a nurse, we have to prescribe certain diets for patients.
Yes,
So if
yes.
they have a GI issue where they're having an infection in their intestines, we would recommend a low fiber, soft, bland food diet that may relate to Ayurveda in a way, maybe
Right.
in
Absolutely.
the sense that we're controlling the diet to control the disease.
Yes, absolutely.
In a
Right.
sense. So that kind of
Yeah,
relates
that would
to-
make sense. Yeah.
an
Yes,
Ayurvedic
absolutely.
principle.
And kind of piggybacking off that, as you said, Ayurveda really stems from everything with the digestive system.
Yeah.
So with the gut, and now Western medicine is really acknowledging how much the gut plays such an impact in our health. And they're doing all this really incredible research behind it, which I think is amazing and striving us to greater health. And I think they take parts of Ayurveda, like you said, Julie, maybe without acknowledging it, but Ayurveda has already addressed that, right? And how foods really play an impact and how you're digesting it, how your gut stores it. 70% of our immune system is held within our gut, right?
Right.
And so I think Western medicine is now really, without acknowledgement, taking hold of, if we really want to treat somebody, we have to look at the digestive system. We have to look at the gut.
You've got to look at that fire. Absolutely.
We have to look at that fire. So I think, kind of going off what we were just saying is that's where Ayurveda is really rooted in Western medicine, is that they've addressed this for a very long time. And now we're finally being like, okay, this is right. This is something that we really need to look on for our health.
Right.
And so speaking about maybe some of your personal experience with it, I know you said that it really kind of transformed your life and your family's life when you really started taking a look into Ayurveda and the foods. Can you walk us through a little bit of that journey?
Sure. So let me just say, Ayurveda, we look at a person's physical constitution. So meaning, the length of your bones, the color of your eyes, the shape of your face, if you grayed, your hair got gray early, the shape of your tongue, all these things constitute into different body constitutions. So Ayurveda is a 5-element system. So fire, water, ether, air, and earth. So we all have those 5 elements in us. They're all just at different degrees. So I have a family of 5, 3 children, and my husband and I. And I was able to look at my children, and I kind of did all of their doshas. Those big words, doshas, just means that there's 3 doshas: the Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. Kapha is just ether and earth and water. Pitta is fire with a very little bit of water. It's more of an oily substance. And then you have Vata, which is ether and air. So remember that we're all a combination of all 5 of those. 2 of them are going to be more dominant, and those are the 2 that you pay attention to. So I kind of sat down with my children and kind of figured out what their doshas were. And when children are small, from like 0 to 20, we are in that Kapha stage of life, meaning the elements of earth and water are very strong. You're building your structure in your body. Your bones are developing. Babies are mucousy and snotty, and they've just got lots of moisture all the time. They need that lubrication because their body is growing at such a rapid rate. So most of my kids, when a time when I was thinking of this, figured this out, was in their Kapha stage of their life. So me feeding them bagels and heavy, more white breads kind of added to that Kapha. That Kapha is swelling. So because of it's earth and water, so it swells in the container. And so I wasn't feeding foods. I mean, my children loved it. They wanted to have a bagel every morning, and it was easy for me. I just threw it at them and off they went to school. But, I wasn't sure. And then some days my kids would go to school with cold cereal and a glass of orange juice. And then I had my teacher, Pat Layton, sit down with us one day, and she poured orange juice into the cold cereal. And of course, the milk curdled. And I just immediately thought, oh my God, I'm sending my children to school with curdled milk in their stomachs and cold milk as it is. So I completely changed that. We always made sure that we had a warm breakfast: oatmeal, pancakes, eggs, anything that was warm. I didn't really care the quality. It was just like, if I could just get some warm food. And it took a little bit because they love their sugar cereals. So that took a little bit for them to finally embrace that. And then I decided, so Ayurveda also believes that there can be certain chunks of time during the day that each one of these doshas kind of can get out of whack. So the Kapha is from like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So there's, you got the elements of earth and water. It can be very heavy. If you get out of bed at 9 o'clock in the morning, you may feel like the rest of your day, you just can't seem to catch up. You're just really kind of lagging behind everything. It's because you've chosen to get up during that Kapha time of the day. Kapha is also from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., right when we're getting ready to go to bed. But it can also be the best time to exercise for some people. It can be the best time to get their energy moving during that Kapha time. So remember, my children were still in the Kapha time. They were still kind of lubricating. They were growing and everything. And I was feeding them cold food. So then in the afternoon, Pitta time is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is when we should be eating our biggest meal. And I tell people, I don't care what it is. If you really need a piece of cake, then have it from that 10 to 2, because our digestive fire is the highest. Right now, that is the time of day when the sun is the strongest. And so our digestive fire is really strong during the summer. It's really well maintained. And then you have that Vata time from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's when we wake up at 3 in the morning and we can't go back to sleep. Our mind has gotten busy. The Vata is that ether and air, and it just gets going. It just gets churned up. So what I realized that when my kids came home around 4:30, hopping off that bus, they were hungry. And instead of me, again, feeding whatever I fed them, I made sure that our meal was warm. I didn't care if it was Kraft macaroni and cheese. I just made sure that they had a warm dish of food in front of them. And then after a while, like by the second week, they would come in, know that they had a warm dish. Sometimes it was just pasta and tomato sauce. But as long as they had something warm, the whole rest of the afternoon and evening were delightful. There wasn't screaming over the homework. There wasn't this, and I didn't care if they didn't want dinner. It's like, if you ate a nice meal at 4 and you weren't hungry to sit down at dinner, I didn't care, whatever, it was fine. And just over time, that I would say 2 weeks, everything in my household changed. The afternoons were lovely. The kids were not all upset over school. It was like nourishing, warm. It calmed that Vata, which is between that, that 2 and 6 p.m. when the winds can get going, you're on the beach and the waves get going. That's Vata. Vata is a mover. So during that time, I made sure my kids were eating something warm, and it kind of calmed all that craziness that can go on when kids come home from school. And the same with my husband. I started completely cook different for my husband. My husband is more of a Vata type. He has a lot of more elements of ether and air, where I'm more Pitta, so I have earth and water. So I started to make sure that he always had a warm dinner, no matter what it was. And like many times I wouldn't eat dinner. If I have a big lunch, I don't need to eat my dinner. So I just made sure that he was eating warm, kind of spicy foods. I made sure that I added a lot of nice, really herbs, hot black pepper, red chili pepper, just things that would warm his inside up. And over time, and he'll even agree, over time, it just kind of calmed him completely down. And he didn't walk in the house like bombarded with 3 children wanting to see their dad. And he just didn't feel like his world was too much in a turmoil. So when I physically saw these things start to change, and then myself, I changed. I completely eliminated things that I love, but were not healthy for me. And I immediately saw a big change in my life. So I just believe in it 100%. As much as you can do. There's a lot to Ayurveda. There's a lot that you can take on. Sometimes it's too much, but I just say little baby steps.
It sounds like a lifestyle, right?
It is. Absolutely, Katie. It is for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that experience. I think that is so helpful for especially our listeners here that are moms and that are parents, and how this really can help them find balance in their day with stress and yes, fueling their kids and their family in the proper way. And it can be pretty simple. Like you said, you can make it as deep and complex that Ayurveda can be, or you can make it simple by just knowing exactly times to eat, right?
Right. Absolutely, Katie. So like I always tell people, like if you were to do 3 things or 4 things in Ayurveda, one would be to set up a really nice morning routine. So meaning that you try to get up 6:30 every morning as best you can. And then you do 5 or 6 things every day that you do consistently. You get up and go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you scrape your tongue. Some people like to do a meditation, and then some people like to do the whole oil your body completely.
Sure.
And that to me is a little time consuming. So it'd be lovely to be able to have time to do. Sometimes when you go online and you'll see where people like, oh, I do 25 things in the morning for my routine. I really would like to be on their shoulder and see them do those 25 things every day. I just don't think it's doable all the time.
So
that's why I say
24-hour time frame.
Yeah. It's like if you have all day and you're not going anywhere, maybe during COVID, that was your time, but now I just don't think so. So I just try to get my clients to just pick 5 things in the morning that they know that they consistently do. And we do that for like the first 2 weeks. And then if we want to add a little bit more, or they feel like it's too much, we can take away or we can add stuff back in. So you want to make sure that routine in the morning is really important, because that's what kind of sets your whole attitude for the day. Scraping your tongue is vital and important, because you need to see what is sitting on the top of your tongue, and we call it ama. Ama is A-M-A, is undigested food, and it sits on top of that tongue. And so when we scrape it, it can be different colors. It can have a cottage cheese consistency. It can be very runny. It can be, and you'll learn as you scrape your tongue and you look at it, then you can think back on the last couple of weeks. What have I eaten that has not been very well digested? Or maybe I'm learning my tongue has so much gunk on it, then I'm like, my fire is low. I need to add some more black pepper into my foods. I need to add a little bit more of that red pepper, those herbs that are just a little bit fiery. And, and salt is heating. So for women, we should be really careful with the quantity and the quality of salt that we're using, because women are going to the fire anyway. We're all working towards menopause, no matter how old you are. So,
right. Yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Well, I love this because it sheds light. You are what you eat, right? But also you are how you eat.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that timing plays a big part of it as well. And knowing where you're at seasonally, time of day, where you are in just your stage of life. These are all important factors to take note
Absolutely.
of. You're constantly evolving, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I always tell people, if you need your cookie, or, you know, you just can't give up your bowl of ice cream, then make sure that when you're eating your cookie and your bowl of ice cream, that you're going to sit down. You've brought out your placemat. You have a little flower in a nice vase. And so make sure that while you are eating what you're eating, your body is sitting in a chair. The blood isn't rushing to the legs because you're not standing. We have a saying in Ayurveda, when you eat standing, death is looking over your shoulder. It just means that, you know, because the blood has to go to the stomach when we're digesting. And if you're standing, the blood is going to stay in your legs. So then the food gets into the stomach and it just sits there, and like, then it will putrefy, and then the body will move it through. But it doesn't serve anything. So, you know, it's like, sit down, have a nice, put it on a pretty plate, have a nice glass of milk, or whatever you're doing. But whatever you're doing, you know, do it with complete and 100% presence of what you're doing, because you may find just, you know, one cookie may be satisfying and you can get up and move on. You know, maybe next time you won't need such a big bowl of ice cream. So it's changing those little patterns that we've had for so long,
conditioned, right?
Absolutely.
What I find interesting is the type of food is not being restricted. You're mentioning ice cream and cookie.
All right.
cereal and
So
milk.
let's go
But-
back. Let's go
yeah.
back to the seasons then. All right. So you have to look at, let's take ice cream. Ice cream has the qualities of cold. Okay. And it is mobile. It can move. Once it melts, it's movable. So then those are kind of the qualities of Vata. So Vata is cold, and Vata is ether and air. And so there's a lot of movement in Vata. So when you have those elements, and we usually like to eat ice cream in the summer, like some people like to eat it year round, we say ice cream is really only good for you in the summer. Your digestion, the fire is strong because we have all that heat coming in from the sun. So then the body can digest the dairy and heat up that dairy much easier than it can in the winter. You eat ice cream in the winter, you're just going to get cold. Your bones are just going to get colder. And some people can't make that connection. I wouldn't say that we restrict food, but you learn what foods are not right for your physical constitution. Like tomatoes are not my friend. I eat tomatoes, strawberries, anything red. My face will get red. I have alcohol, my face will get red. I am more of that fire and water constitution. And so those things will trigger me very quickly. So if I'm going to have tomatoes, I'll have it in August when I've gone to the farmer's market, and it's when they're really growing and they're ripe and they're good. I'll have a couple of tomatoes then, but throughout the rest of the year, I'll have, let's say I go out and I will have spaghetti sauce and stuff, but I know we have a little saying in Ayurveda, we have all these sayings, that it's crimes against wisdom. And I know better, but I'm going to do it anyway. And come what may, just come what may. Yeah. So that's what
I like
do.
that. That's great. And I think also what this kind of shows is that often when people think of health and wellness, we think of just so much restrictions, right? That is so much what's preached nowadays, is this set rule book of exactly what you have to do. And if you don't do it, then, you failed, right? You're not going to get to where you want to go. And Ayurveda, what I so appreciate about it, and exactly how you're explaining it, Julie, is that there's really no one set rule book. It's really just taking a deep dive into the individual and uncovering those layers within the individual to understand who they are as the unique person that they are. And then once you understand yourself, then you really can start to learn how to fuel yourself and build this healthy vehicle, this healthy body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so what's needed, especially nowadays when people think of their health and wellness. We're bombarded by the internet, right? We're bombarded by social media. We're bombarded by so much information. It's this information overload. And, people get stuck in their health journeys because of it. And I was a result of that at one point. I remember I was trying to do so many different things because I would hear all these different things I would have to try. And then nothing would work, or I would get these horrible symptoms. And then I would just, wave my hands up and say, I give up. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And I think the missing component in health and wellness is that we have to look at it individually. We have to pause, like you said, show up with presence and begin to do the work to understand ourselves. And then that's how we can fuel it. And I love that Ayurveda preaches that.
Mhm.
That seems to be a solid foundation of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julie.
No, you're absolutely right, Katie. Absolutely. You're saying it lovely. Yes.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I know just from personal experience, I haven't done a ton of Ayurveda, and maybe you can shed a little bit more light on this, Julie, just talking a little bit more about the doshas. My dosha, I think I'm automatically a Vata. I'm constantly on the go. I have all this creative energy. I'm always cold. So to me, I feel I'm a Vata, and I try to feed myself accordingly. Can you kind of explain the doshas a little bit personality wise, if somebody was
Sure.
completely new to Ayurveda and they want to be like, oh, what is my dosha? Can
Yeah.
you explain that a bit more?
Okay, so we have this big word prakriti, and that just means your physical constitution. So that really isn't going to change. So that is where you get your physical constitution. And like I said, so Katie, you think you're Vata. You're not 100% Vata. You've got those five elements. It's very rare for anyone in the United States to be just a pure Vata, Kapha, Pitta, dosha. That doesn't happen anymore. In India, when they do all the arranging marriages and everything, your doshas are taken into consideration.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And they put the right doshas together. So doshas are very important as far as that goes. So let's say that you come out to be dominant of Vata and Pitta. Well, we would pay attention to Vata first, because Vata is the elements of ether and air, and Vata is a mover. So your eyes blinking, swallowing, your anal contraction, raising your hand, that's all done by Vata. And I always say, since Vata is the mover and we are moving, remember I said that the Kapha stage when you're alive is from 0 to 20, and then we hit the Pitta stage, which is from 20 to about 50. Would make sense. Your fire is really strong. You've got to go out. Most of us might have a family. You've got to pay for yourself. You go out and get your job. You're doing all these things. And so you need all that strong energy to get you through all this time of life. And then when you get to be about 55 or 60, you start heading into the Vata stage, where you get more into your mind. You start to wonder, what's left of my life? You're coming down on the bottom rung of your ladder, and you start to see things differently. And that's when a lot of people head to meditation. They become religious. It's no longer about providing for their family. It's about time now for them to just kind of reflect on the things that they've done in their life. So we're all moving towards that Vata stage of our life. Hopefully we'll all get there. And so my philosophy is then I just really pay attention to the Vata dosha, because it's the mover. It's going to take your heartburn that you've sat in your stomach and you've dosed it with Tums. But over time, Vata is going to move that heartburn, and it's going to take it down deeper and deeper into your tissues. And then you're going to have other issues. So I say Vata is the one dosha that I really pay a great deal of attention to. Okay. So, and you can have a combination. So a Pitta person's characteristics mentally, they're very sharp. They're really good leaders. They think they know everything. They can kind of be a little bit more on the other side, where they get a little arrogant, and, a lot of them will be gray haired early. They will have more of a rosy hue to their skin. They're very quick to temper. And I tell people, if you're going to have a meeting with someone and you can kind of look at them and realize that maybe they have a little bit more of a fiery side to them, make sure that they have a meal. Pittas should eat, at 9 a.m, noon, or 4 p.m. Pittas need to have that type of a regiment, where Vatas can go without food, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't eat, but I'm okay, I'll keep going. And then over time, then they get starving, and then they've got to eat almost immediately.
Yeah.
So,
how about Kapha? I'm probably more dominant in Kapha. I'm more slow.
Yeah. So I pronounce it as Kapha.
Kapha.
Yeah. Some people call it Kapha. I was trained as Kapha. So Kapha is lovely. I had a teacher out of Boulder, John Duard, and he would say, the next time you have a chance to have a new life and you're sitting there and they say, everybody run to the Pitta line, everybody run to the Vata line, everybody run to the Kapha line. Everybody will run to the Pitta and the Vata, because they think that, they just need that structure, that leader, whatever. And then the Kaphas over here, and nobody's joining the Kapha, because Kapha people are more soft. They are people that you just want to go over to their house and sit on their couch with them and talk to them. Their houses are going to be full of beautiful beds. They love to sleep. Kaphas love to sleep. So their beds will be the finest linens they can afford. Their house will be full of stuff. Like, you're kind of like, oh my God, it's like a little bit of hoarding would be a Kapha that has gotten way out of balance. And Kaphas have good structure. They rarely have anything go wrong with them. because they just have that beautiful structure. They have that beautiful lubrication. And they're just a bigger boned human being. And Kapha's minds are gentle and kind. And then they can also come over here and be depressed and sad and blue, and they can get stuck on their couch and they can watch Netflix all day long, and they can be drawn to those sweet foods. So
that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yep,
absolutely.
Familiar.
Exactly. And the Kapha time of year is, from that March to, let's say June here, maybe February to June. And so that's really a hard time for Kaphas. If Kapha is your major makeup, it's kind of a hard time for you to want to get up and do things. So that's when you need to pay attention. Pittas need to pay attention to themselves during that summer, when it's from like June to October, is strong Pitta. The earth is hot. We're gathering heat. We need to if you are a fire constitution, you need to pay attention to yourself during that month. And then if you're Vata, Vatas we always call them canaries in the coal mine. They are very, very sensitive to things. Temperature changes. They're sensitive to have people talk to them. Their tone of voice can really affect a Vata. Where a Pitta, you could talk to them in a way that would send a Vata to the bedroom crying, and Pittas will look at you like, yeah, I don't care, whatever. So, and then Kaphas would be like, oh, well, they would just never talk to anybody that way. They're always super nice. So, and the Vatas are going to be drawn, so the Vata is that ether and air. So they're going to be drawn to those foods. They're going to be drawn to crackers, popcorn, foods that are very light. They don't have a lot of nourishment or heaviness. So when a Vata during that time, that fall, so Vatas from like October to February, when it's really cold, it's windy, and this also depends on, you got to figure out where you live in the world, because this is all based on seasons and things change with where you are physically in the world. But that Vata, we need to dose it with oil and make Vatas eat lots of ghee, lots of heavy foods, and they're not going to like it. They're going to want their salads. They're going to want their sprouts. And those things are already light and airy. So why would you continue to give that to a person whose constitution is already light and airy? They need more of that earth element. They need more of the heavy food. It takes a while for a Vata to get on board. They won't want to. But when you get them on board, they'll be pretty good. Kaphas will hop on board, pretty much all the time. They're pretty agreeable. They kind of just flow. They just flow. They're lovely, lovely people. And remember, we have all those elements in us. Some are just way less than other elements.
That was a beautiful way of explaining that. Especially when you go online, they have these find out your dosha quizzes or kind of just a breakdown. You put that so much deeper and so much of a relatable level.
You animated each dosha type
really
so
well.
We could imagine the person that you're describing the dosha.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're getting closer to the end of our interview, but I just
that went fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because we're having fun.
Honestly, I was just thinking this could be, we could go on and on.
We could.
So enlightening, Julie. This amount of information you have Hanan and I drawn. Like we keep getting closer and closer. Just wanting to hear more. So, maybe in the future we'll have to do another recording of this, because I think
I would love that.
Keep going down this if you're open to it.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Questions that you have, Hanan?
So you have a practice. What would it be like for a person to work with you? What do they come for and how does it work?
I've had people come for me for all reasons. I've had a young girl whose mother brought her over because she was starting to just kind of go a little goofy in the head. And so I've met with her. I've met with many men and people from all different things come to me for all different reasons, heartburn, migraines, not sleeping. And really, it's just, you come to me, we fill out a form, we talk for a while. And the more I can talk to you, the more I can kind of pull away some of these, I call them little armors that we've put in front of ourselves to make ourselves look like we got our stuff together. Try to peel that away and then kind of get really down to why they're coming to see me. And then really, it's just as simple as I give them a tea mixture and they're kind of like, what? I'm like, yes, I just want you to go home and drink this tea for like 2 to 3 weeks and then come back and let's talk. And the tea that I give them, whatever the issues are, can really change if they haven't waited too long with their issue. The tea and just creating a nice routine for themselves can really set a lot of things back. Remember, the body's always trying to get back to optimal health.
Yeah.
It's always trying. It doesn't know anything. It doesn't know any different. So the more we can give those teeny tiny steps to get it back to optimal health, then the easier it's for that body to slide into there and be very happy.
Yeah. The body knows how to heal itself, right? We just have to give it a chance.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. We
Yeah.
look forward to speaking with you again,
Yeah.
hopefully soon. This has been so much fun. But for our listeners, we really hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Julie, I think you really did such a good job of just giving the conversation an opening, right? To just begin to talk about your health and where you're at in life, what you're experiencing, and what you can do to fuel that particular stage of your life. So for our listeners, if they would want to work with you, do you also do virtual sessions with Ayurveda?
I do. Yes. And that can be done. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Where could our listeners find you at?
well, you know what? They could probably just reach me just with my email. I guess that would be the best way, because I'm letting go of my yoga studio, so I won't have that space anymore. So, and then I'll just see people in my home. So that'll be good.
And Julie, if you don't mind sharing what your email is in case they wanted to reach out to you.
Exactly. So it's J like Julie, Stew, STEW, 85617 @yahoo.com.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
thanks so much
You're welcome.
for sharing.
We so enjoyed having you on here.
Hey.
Hanan and I, speaking for myself, and I'm sure Hanan feels the same
Yeah.
way, that we
Mhm.
learned so
Hanan.
much from you. So we hope our listeners really did too, just really shedding the light on health is a journey. And
Thank you.
You definitely pulled me in. I was just like leaning forward inch by inch each time you spoke. Like, I just want to see you myself. Not like I want
Well, and if you guys just look at each other, you'll see exactly what I mean, how Katie is Vata and you're more Kapha. You've got more Kapha. You can just see the difference in your physical structure.
right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think we work well as a team though.
Yes,
That's what
yes.
We're alluding to. But anyway.
Yes,
Thanks so much
exactly.
for your time.
All
Yeah,
right.
no
Thank
worries, girls.
you, Julie.
Okay, thank
Have a
you.
beautiful day.
You too. Thanks, you guys.